Today's film is Yugioh the Movie. This originally released in theaters in 2004. And as I already explained in a previous video, I am a huge Yu-Gi-Oh fan, original Yu-Gi-Oh fan. I'm not as big into the card game as I probably would have liked to have been. But after 2005, I was pretty much done with Yu-Gi-Oh! I stopped collecting cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX showed up on the TV, and I just was not into it. I was like, where's Yugi? Where's Kaiba? If they're not showing up, then I don't care. So I stopped watching. And then Dark-Sided Dimensions comes out in 2016, and I'm back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. And I try to collect a box set of the complete original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. And I eventually did find a set for about $50 back in 2022. I picked it up. And I've been binging through it. I just finished Season 3. Battle City Finals are finished. Yugi versus Merrick, that's done. And so, now is the perfect time to watch Yugioh the Movie because it is set directly after Battle City. Regardless of what anybody says, I don't think this film actually takes place 3 years after Battle City Finals. It doesn't make sense. All of the characters are still in high school. They would be in upper secondary education by now. Taya would be in New York doing her acting classes or whatever. And no. They're still in high school. They're still there, right? What else was I talking about? Yeah, so they mentioned that it's been 3 years. Pegasus mentions this to Kaiba, and a couple other times it's been mentioned that it has been a couple years since the Battle City Finals. I don't buy that. I think that could just be a translation error. I never watched the Japanese version of this film, but I know the Japanese version is 12 minutes longer. 4Kids cut 12 minutes out of this film. It needs that 12 minutes put back in. But I think they set this film directly after Battle City. It's not a huge time skip like the dub, the dialogue is supposed to lead you to believe, because it just doesn't make any sense. The character lookingness, the character design, appearances, they don't look 3 years different. They don't look it. They do look it in Dark-Sided Dimensions, and that's just because it's a completely different animation style by then, but people do look different there. They look exactly the same with an upgrade to the animation, which I would say the animation upgrade is beautiful. It really is beautiful. I loved the new animation style that they put for this film. It is definitely an upgrade, and I can tell you that it's not just the exact same as the anime. I watched up to Season 3, I watched this movie, and then last night I started to watch a few episodes of Season 4. It's way better than Season 4's animation. It's way better, man. It's like night and day comparisons. Watch this and watch a couple episodes of the anime around the same time, and you'll see that this does have a movie's budget. But the plot is where the problem is. The plot feels like it's just something that you would put in between Season 3 and 4. It's just a small mini-arc that should have been just maybe about 6 to 12 episodes long. But it does need a little bit extra time to really tell the story that it wanted to tell. And it does have a lot of missed opportunities. It has a lot of missed opportunities. One of those missed opportunities being the villain. We don't get a good build-up to this villain. By comparison, we can look at Merrick Ishtar in Season 2. All throughout that first half of Season 2, we get a gradual build-up until we finally get to see what he looks like. And we, the viewer, know what he looks like, but the characters still don't. And that is some good tension. That is some good revealings and crap like that. There's none of that here. It doesn't have the time to do it. They just rush you through it until the villain shows up and they have to beat him in the final 5 to 10 minutes. And the final 5 to 10 minutes, there's just no time left. They just rush in, and it's just meh. I can address some of the issues that a lot of people have with the film, and how I think that some of them aren't as bad, and where I do agree that some are terrible. One of the things that I don't think is as bad is that some of these characters are living and dying by a children's card game. If you've read the manga of the original manga before the Duel Monsters took over, and then if you read the manga of Duel Monsters, if you watched the anime of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Up the first 3 seasons, you would realize this is far more than just a children's card game. This, for example, I have a Blue Eyes White Dragon card here, and we see that the Blue Eyes is standing in front of that ancient stone tablet of the Pharaoh and Seto, High Priest Seto, challenging each other to a duel. And we see the spirit of the Blue Eyes White Dragon and the spirit of the Dark Magician. They're both standing side by side, fighting each other. And the reason why this is important is that these were real spirits. These were real ethereal creatures. The Dark Magician, for example, is the spirit of the Pharaoh's bodyguard, who used to be a living person named Mahado, who was the original owner of the Millennium Ring. His apprentice is Mana, a girl who looks just like the Dark Magician girl. There's a reason why a lot of these cards look like actual people. It's because they're spirits of those people. The Blue Eyes White Dragon is also a spirit of another person, a girl named Kisra, who Priest Seto was very fond of, who was very close to. I believe he may have even fallen in love with her. I haven't finished the rest of Millennium World. I read the first 2 novels of the manga, and I haven't seen the rest, so I plan to watch that by Season 5 in the anime to get the full story, but I do know that they're close. They're close. And that's why these 2 cards are Yugi and Kaiba's ace monsters. It's because fate has tied them together. It's because Pegasus found these old tombs, and he recreated a 5,000-year-old shadow game in the form of a card game for modern day. He naturally filled it with a bunch of cards that didn't exist in those tombs, such as machine monsters. I doubt machines existed 5,000 years ago. I doubt his toon monsters existed 5,000 years ago. So there's clearly some leeway that Pegasus was taking. But for the most part, a lot of these original era Yu-Gi-Oh cards are based off actual spirits. These are based off real games, real monsters. So when Anubis says at the end of the movie, "Oh, the monsters are real," they were real. That's why, for example, the Dark Magician broke so many rules in Yugi's duels, is because he's channeling the magic of Priest Mahado and his devotion to his pharaoh, and that he won't let his pharaoh take damage and all that stuff. He will protect him and all that stuff. So that's really great stuff to see if you're in the know about who the Dark Magician truly is. If you know who he is, then you can really appreciate that stuff. The story, though, is pretty much something that you would see in the actual anime. Something set between seasons 3 and 4 to fill out the runtime. A nice little mini arc, kind of like the first half of season 3, where Yugi and Kaiba and everybody went to the digital world for a little side quest. That's what this movie feels like. It feels like one of those side quest arcs that is pretty interesting, but is taking some liberties to the stuff that they don't have actual inside information about what actually happened back in ancient Egypt, so they left a lot of that vague. Well, I can say that they had enough backstory into ancient Egypt to make an incredible game in 1999 called Forbidden Memories for the PlayStation 1, and we get to see the pharaoh's backstory a little bit, about them taking a lot of liberties with the backstory, of course, and they made up their own characters, like their own villain of Haishin. And that gave me an idea. What if we get rid of the Lord Anubis, Lord of the Dead thing, and we made this guy just another sorcerer who tried to take on Pharaoh Atem's father, who was the previous pharaoh? What if during Yami's father's rule, an ancient sorcerer tried to take over the kingdom and his father stopped him? And now, 5,000 years later, Yami inherited his father's Millennium Puzzle, and the magic that locked this dark spirit away happened to unlock him again when Yugi recreated the puzzle and all that stuff. Maybe it's just a connection to another dark sorcerer and all that stuff. Man, maybe it's just why not make it not be Anubis himself? You know, that's an idea. It's an idea. For the most part, I liked it. And I even, after watching the first handful of episodes of Season 4, I think they might even be considering this film to be canon to Season 4, even though Season 4 isn't canon to the manga at all, because it didn't exist in the manga. But I like that there's a mention of it. There's a slight mention. Tristan is talking about Pegasus after a few episodes of Season 4. He mentions how the last time they spoke to Pegasus, he wasn't such a bad guy. Well, I watched the first 3 seasons of the show. After Season 1, they don't see Pegasus again. They don't see Pegasus again until this film, where he's actually a pretty swell guy in this movie. So it makes me wonder if Tristan's talking about this time being the last time they met Pegasus, where he wasn't so bad of a guy. That could be a nod to this movie, and it might be the only nod you'll get in Season 4, but I like that that was there. There's not too much else I could say about this, other than the duel with Kaiba was pretty good, but it felt rushed naturally, because this film needs some more runtime. It needs that 12 minutes before it gets cut out. It needs it. It needs an extra 30 minutes even. It needs to be even longer than its original format, because this feels rushed out the wazoo. For example, Yugi vs. Kaiba in Season 3 was 6 episodes long. It's just a single duel. This film has the duel between Kaiba and Pegasus. It has a duel between Yugi and Kaiba. It has duels between Joey and some of the people who want to take on Yugi at the start of the film. And then it has Yugi versus the Lord Anubis guy at the very end. And of course, there's also a side arc with Yugi, Joey, and Tristan and Taya inside the Millennium Puzzle being chased by zombies and all that stuff. That was pretty fun, too. It just didn't have enough time to do everything. Yugi vs. Kaiba alone, like I said, 6 episodes. This film alone has enough runtime for about 4 episodes, and they're doing what you could easily spread into a 12 to 15 episode mini arc into how many minutes? 90 minutes. Into 90 minutes. It's packed with a lot of information. And my memory was hazy since it had been almost 17 to 18 years since I saw this movie last, that I honestly thought this film was longer than it was. It felt long by watching it. There's so much stuff that they're throwing at the screen, but you don't have enough time to actually look at everything. There's just flashing so much stuff going by, and that it doesn't feel like you're grasping it, if that makes sense. So I could see the potential, though, and I say that a lot for a lot of films that usually don't do too well, is that I can see the potential. I see an incredibly good movie in here, but the actuality of it is not as good as Dark Side of Dimensions. I watched that, I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen Bonds Beyond Time at all, so I don't know if it's the absolute worst of the 3 Yu-Gi-Oh movies, but I do know that Dark Side of Dimensions is better than Yugioh the Movie. But even as saying that, I still love this movie. I'm still never going to get rid of it. It is a fond memory of my childhood. I still have the 2 blue-eye shining dragons that I picked up at the actual theater. I got these at the theater when going to see the movie. I went once, and then I went again, and I got the shining dragon both times, and I'm very proud of that. I definitely think this could have been better, but it doesn't need to be anything more than what it is for me personally. For me personally, my memories of this film in 2004 are far more valuable to me than what this movie could have been. Although I will say one thing before closing out of this video. I see a lot of people correcting a lot of rules that this film breaks, and you know how the anime is already prone to breaking a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game rules. And one thing they break that a lot of people didn't notice is with the Celtic Guardian. Near the end of the film, Yugi summons Watapon and the Celtic Guardian for his final turn against Kaiba before Anubis shows up. Anubis summons Andro Sphinx and Sphinx Talea to destroy Yugi's last 2 monsters. And if you heard Yugi correctly when he summoned the Celtic Guardian, he says he's going to summon the obnoxious Celtic Guardian. The obnoxious Celtic Guardian. There's a difference. The regular Celtic Guardian has no effect. It has 1400 attack and 1300 defense, I think. The obnoxious Celtic Guardian has the same stats, but it comes with an effect. The obnoxious Celtic Guardian's effect is that it cannot be destroyed by a monster with 1900 attack or higher. It's, I believe, a translation issue. I think the original version is like the baffling Celtic Guardian. Like, enemies are baffled that this card can survive boss monster attacks, because the boss monster is having a far higher than 1900 attack points. Both Andro Sphinx and Sphinx Talea have over 1900 attack points, so neither one of these creatures should have been able to destroy the obnoxious Celtic Guardian. He should have survived Sphinx Talea's attack, but I get why they ignored that rule. He had to go down for the story to happen, so they had to break that rule, but I thought I'd mention it. But that was pretty funny, either way. This movie has a lot of fond memories. It's not the best movie by far. It's far from the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc. But I think it had the potential to be good. If they changed the villain to somebody like Haishin, or a sorcerer that Yugi's father took on 5,000 years ago, that would have been pretty interesting. If we had a little backstory, like a little 20-minute prologue set in ancient Egypt showing us this battle between this sorcerer and all the other Yugi's father and all, Yami's father and all that stuff. If we saw that, that would have been pretty cool. But as it is what it is, and it's not bad. It's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I've watched this film so many times on VHS. I've memorized the film from front to back. It is a film that I hadn't seen in 18 years, yet still remembered from start to finish. It is that fondly remembered to me. Even though I even thought I forgot about it a lot. I forgot about most of it, but when I watched it again, I eventually started quoting the lines before they happened. It just came back to me. I don't think there's anything else I need to say about this movie, other than to say it'll probably work a lot better for you if you watch the first 3 seasons of the anime first. If you are a fan of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! And you watch the first 3 seasons and you watch this movie, you'll appreciate it more. You should watch it in that sweet spot, in between seasons 3 and 4. If you do that, you'll probably appreciate it a little bit. That's it. That's all I got.